We forget, even as American relief supplies were arriving in Iraq today, U.S. servicemen and women were in the Persian Gulf ready to act should there be new trouble over weapons inspections. In tonight's Eye on America, we give you a look at one reason any future military confrontation with Iraq would be different from the Gulf War. CBS's David Martin reports on private eyes in the sky.
When the Air Force sent B-1 bombers and other warplanes to the Persian Gulf just as another confrontation with Saddam Hussein was beginning to boil up,
we think this is the primary tent city.
A small team headed by Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Smith was using satellite photos to look over their shoulder to see if they were vulnerable to attack.
With the help of the satellites, we could determine the dispersal of aircraft and equipment around the airfield. We could look for security perimeters. We could look for living facilities, potential soft targets on the airfield.
But the satellites weren't America's top-secret spy satellites. They were commercial satellites which zoomed in on an airfield in Bahrain, giving Sergeant John Weber a bird's-eye view of the operation.
This is an example of a new potential threat that we in the military are going to have to deal with.
The project was run by intelligence specialists at an Air Force base with guards at the gate and locks on the door. But it could just as easily be run by anyone who has a credit card and knows how to navigate the internet.
Anybody can get these pictures. Phone number and credit cards, about all that's required.
No questions asked?
No questions asked.
How about when you were asking questions about this base in Bahrain?
What's your visa number?
That's the only question.
That's about it.
Photo analyst Paul Sanders says the Air Force was amazed at what the commercial satellites revealed.
This particular pattern here is very common for a U.S. tent city. That's where our troops would live in 8-man tents. And it's very distinct with a little security fencing around it to the north. For an adversary trying to plan an attack on this base, that could be very important information.
The photos even show the construction of an air defense site to protect against Iraqi missiles.
If Saddam Hussein were looking at a base where U.S. aircraft were deployed, would he be able to tell whether or not it was defended by Patriot missiles?
That's entirely possible with today's imagery, yes.
In Desert Storm, Saddam never saw the U.S. Army's left hook coming at him across the desert. With today's commercial satellites, he could watch it unfold on the internet.
As these systems come online, that they will become intelligence assets for foreign governments that don't have that capability now. And that's what our concern is.
The Air Force recently discovered that someone, there's no way of knowing who, has used the internet to purchase hundreds of satellite photos of American military installations.
I doubt if there's going to be anywhere on Earth that you can go that we won't be observed. And that's not going to be too far off.
Commercial satellites can already pick out an airplane, just barely, but a high-resolution satellite is scheduled for launch soon, and here's what it will be able to see, and what anybody will be able to buy. At Falcon Air Force Base, Colorado, this is David Martin for Eye on America.